Good morning to all of you out there. Welcome to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, and today is October 28, 2021. It's a Thursday. It's very nice weather here in Lipa. Wag naman sanang umulan. Okay, let's start the day with our daily starter. And our daily starter is everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Mapapansin niyo po, there have been a number of presidential candidates, their PR people, their campaign managers who have been too too quick on the draw, making so many comments, making statements, and then eventually regretting it or being punished for it. So, my little story here is once upon a time, I was in a lunch gathering with with my professors and our college secretary. This was in the late 70s, and the college secretary turned to me and said, "Alam mo, Sito, dapat mag-shift ka ng course from masscom. You should go to public administration." I did not stay 1 second longer in the lunch. I stormed out. I was so offended, and I just refused to hang around, and I left. And later in the day, I ended up meeting with that college secretary, and she told me, Sito, if you had listened first before you got offended, you would have heard the full statement. I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "I have been observing you here in the fishing village where you talk to fishermen, talk to the local people, and you have the skills to communicate with people who are at this level. Ang dami mong nagiging kaibigan, and you might be better off being in government and public administration." And that's what I meant. Hindi naman pinapaalis kita dun sa Mascom, kung hindi parang it seemed like a better fit. So if I had been, if I had been quick to listen, slow to storm out, it would have resulted in a nice lunch, very interesting conversation. So for those of you who have a temper like I used to have, and from time to time I still have it, take the lessons from the book of James, chapter 1:19. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Lalo na po yung mga people in power, yung mga nagagalit pag hindi nila nagustuhan yung nadinig nila. You are not the only one with an opinion. Even ordinary citizens are entitled to their opinion. Okay, so that is our daily starter for the day. Thank you for those of you who are watching us and who are subscribed to Cignal TV and watching us via channels 8 and 250. Maraming salamat po, especially those of you who encourage us to keep on with our programs, our interviews, and we do hope you will also interact with us and tell us what you would like to see on the program. Medyo nakakaligtaan ko lang pamisa-misan i-check, but I get back to it. And for those of you who don't have Cignal TV, well, you can watch us via Facebook. Continue to watch us on facebook.com/OneNewsPH. Let's go to the front page of the Philippine Star. And the headline, PDP Laban Faction wants Rodi for Senate. Okay, nilabas po ni Montulpo ang story nito the other day. at ikinaasar ni Mayor Sara Duterte. Kasi yung sinasabi ni Montulfong Plan C, this is the Plan C of the PDP laban. If PRRD cannot run and Sara Duterte does not run, let's get President Duterte to run for Senate and be the Senate President. Yan po yung sabi ni Montulfo. Anyway, that's the headline of the Philippine Star, and that strategy, according to Alfonso Cusi, the Secretary of Energy, but now working more as president of the PDP Laban, that was his idea, and para raw magkaroon ng reforms in the Senate. I wonder what the Senate President Tito Soto would have to say about that. Okay, at the top of the Philippine Star, on the header, DOH vaccination for all minors starts November 3. That's next Wednesday. And that will be for ages 12 to 17. Ang gagamitin daw pong bakuna will be Moderna and Pfizer. And according to the PSA, there are 12.7 million minors or kids in the range of 12 to 17 years old. So according to Secretary Carlito Galvez, they will enlist 40 to 50 hospitals nationwide, and they already have 28 hospitals on the list in NCR. Okay, so yan po yan. And then below the DOH vaccination story, we have that beautiful sand bigla akong carving or whatever, sand art on one of the beaches in Puerto Galera. Kasi puro kayo Boracay. Me, I love Puerto Galera for its simplicity, its solitude, and the people are so nice. Doon, nakakagala pa ako. Kahit mag-isa ako, hindi ako ninenervyos. Hindi katulad sa ibang lugar medyo titingin-tingin ka kung maraming snatcher. Anyway, that's the photo on the front page of the Philippine Star, Puerto Galera. And next up, the World Health Organization has declared that the pandemic is far from finished. Many countries have begun into unlocking the detention cells of their citizens. Some countries are even talking about lowering masks, etc. But the World Health Organization warned global leaders and countries that it is far from finished because there are many countries or continents even, like in Africa, where only 14 out of 100 individuals are vaccinated, unlike the numbers in countries like the US na more than triple, quadruple that. So, and then of course, there is the issue of waning vaccines. Okay. Further down the front page, 100,000 peso fine for nuisance candidates pushed. Okay. The law department representative of the COMELEC appearing before a committee headed by Senator Amy Marcos has proposed or supported the proposal that people who are deemed, judged, or declared nuisance candidates by the COMELEC should be fined 100,000 pesos and be prevented from being a candidate for the next 2 elections in the future. But all of this, of course, is in a proposed bill. Hindi po yan mangyayari itong 2021, 2022. That's for future elections. The same way we have been talking about no substitution and the way we have been talking about senators not being allowed to run for higher office, and if they lose, can still go back to their comfortable present positions. Okay. And we have that lady traveler waiting for a ride at the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange yesterday sa PITX. Okay? In-inspection po ni MMDA Chairman Benhar Abalos lahat sa mga terminals na yan because they are expecting an increase in number of travelers because of the long weekend. Okay. And for, I believe, COVID-19, there you go, COVID-19 tally, mas mababa po. Thank God. Thank you, Lord. And congratulations to the Philippines and all Filipinos. We are down to 3,218 active cases for COVID-19. Unfortunately, pataas pa rin ng tumataas yung number ng mga namamatay. 271 were recorded to have died yesterday due to complications resulting from COVID-19. We are now 42,348. 42,348 Pilipino na ang namatay, pumanaw dahil po sa COVID-19. Tandaan niyo po yan pag kayo ay nag-iisip mamasyal. And back to the front page, we have Secretary Charlie Galvez opposing the proposal of the DOTR for 100% capacity for PUV. Kasi pag dumami daw ng ganyang karami, if we allow 100% capacity in public utility vehicles, chances are it will result in the increase of COVID-19 infections. They are suggesting that instead of 100%, 75% na laang. So, yan po, no? Why don't we just increase the number of vaccinations? Okay? And then the EUAs for third dose boosters out next week. The emergency use authorizations for the use of, for the third dose and boosters will be out next week. Sasabihin nyo pa, anong EUA? EUA pa, nagbabakuna na tayo. Whether or not we like it, and even the FDA still has to issue that because for all intents and purposes, all the vaccines and medicines that are currently being used for COVID-19 are technically still under trials. So, okay, let's now move forward back to the front page. Priests enter politics. Ito parang di ba? Remember ninyo yung pare sa Pampanga, si Emong Eddie ba yun or something? Priests enter politics and their clerical duties are placed on hold. Okay, 30 pare ang pumasok sa larangan ng politika, and one is from Camarines Sur, one is from Tagum, Davao del Norte, and another one from Sorsogon. The first two filed for mayors, candidate mayor for Pitapit of Camarines Sur, and the other one is for a town in Tagum. Anyway, yun po, no? So, tingnan natin kung papalarin yung mga pare. Anyway, let's then... Okay, ito naman, teachers, zombie na sa overwork. Ito, medyo bagong linya ito. Trick or threat? Members of the Alliance of Concerned Teachers stage a rally in front of the DepEd in Pasig City to call out what they described as the DepEd's trick or threat approach to handling teachers' demands for overtime pay. kasi parang kailangan mag-overtime. Pero pagdating na sa singilan, mamenen. Okay, let's move back to the front page for the last bit of news. Task Force Head ng Manila Bay, Dolomite Beach, has been removed from his position because of the overcrowding that has happened and the politics that ensued dyan sa overcrowding sa Manila Bay, yung Dolomite Beach. Okay, so that's it. That is the summary of news on the front page. Let's now move to our interview for the day. Our guest is a regular here, and bago po natin siya ipasok, I just want to remind people, a lot of people have forgotten that our guest has served as three-time mayor of Valenzuela, and he also was a congressman in 2013, and he has authored many education-related bills and universal access to quality tertiary education. Kumbaga yung marami sa inyong libre na ang college ngayon ay dahil sa batas na pinasok niya, and then doon sa Murang Kuryente Act. And then yung Murang Kuryente Act para doon sa mga maliliit, yung mga isa-isang bumbilya lang o kaya isang electric pan lang, malaking bagay yung Mura Kuryente Act and the Mobile Number Portability Act. So kayong mga millennials, many of you who love your cell phone numbers, who identify yourselves with your cell phone numbers, this gentleman is responsible for the law that makes it official that if you change companies, whatever, you can carry your phone number. So let's now go to our guest because we want to discuss very serious issues. Okay? Kasi ngayon po, pinoproblema natin langis, mataas ang presyo ng gasolina, etc. Pagkatapos, when summer comes, mataas naman ang presyo ng kuryente. And all of this is related to the Department of Energy. And it seems that from the Farmally anomaly, it is now the DOE anomalies ang magiging next issue. Let's bring in Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. Senator, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Cito. Good morning to our televiewers.
Okay, well, from the looks of it, while Senator Dick Gordon has essentially started wrapping up the Farmally anomaly investigations, mukhang umiinit. It seems that this issue on energy, the Department of Energy, all related matters seems to be heating up. Could you just give us a preamble to all of this, Senator?
Well, Cito, it's part of our mandate of holding the departments to account. That's part of our responsibility exercising our oversight functions. So, ganyan talaga, Cito. That's our system, and it's important that the departments are doing their job, and it's important they're also transparent in terms of their policy making. So in the realm of energy, there are two things that we are looking at. Number one is the power situation this coming 2022. As we all know, you mentioned earlier, election year next year. And we want to make sure that there is constant supply of electricity throughout the summer season. And then number two, there's this issue of the Malampaya transaction, which we investigated and inquired. And we have some conclusions as to what happened, but this is still an ongoing evaluation and an ongoing inquiry.
Okay, let's do it piece by piece. First of all, DOE, Senator, no? So DOE, the concern is with all of these problems happening, do we have a functioning Department of Energy Secretary? Kasi maraming nag-a-accuse sa kanya ngayon na masyado siyang focus sa politics when we have very serious issues on hand. As you pointed out, the Malampaya case, there are people who filed cases against him and Dennis Uy of Odena regarding that deal. And it's a multi-billion deal na it seems they claim was injurious o nalugi ang gobyerno. And then yung presyo ng gasolina kasi maraming jeepney drivers at saka bus drivers nagsasabi halos wala na silang kinikita. So what is your assessment of Secretary Cusi? Kasi as I want to be objective about it, but it's hard to be objective if everything I see on the front page relates to a political statement or action on the part of the secretary and nothing to do with energy.
Well, Cito, it's very difficult for me to answer that directly, no, because his political activities and his political inclinations are his own prerogative. What's important for me is what I cover, no, which is the energy sector, and this is a task and a responsibility that was given to me by the Senate. Therefore, I have to do my job to conduct oversight and to hold the department into account. And this is where all of these things are coming up. No, for example, as you mentioned, the power situation next year, the Malampaya issue, and then you have the rising oil prices, which cannot be solved overnight. But we need to have a long-term solution to this. No, and all of these things are very serious and very immediate in terms of attention, and we need all hands on deck, especially this coming next few months because oil prices are going up.
Okay, to be fair with the DOE, they have forwarded several suggestions. One was to go to Congress and say, pakibigyan nyo kami ng authority, give us the authority to intervene that at the moment that the prices get out of hand, we can either implement price freeze or push forward for the removal of certain taxes, etc. How do you view these suggestions? First, on the requested authority to intervene.
Well, Sito, there is merit to that request. I saw the letter of Secretary Cusi to us, the legislators. That includes me and Congressman Mikey Arroyo in the House. And there's merit to look at that, no? Especially in the aspect of transparency. Dahil pag tumataas ang presyo ng langis, we cannot help discount from our minds that there are people who are trying to abuse or trying to take advantage of this increase in prices. So for purposes of transparency, yes, no, we are looking at this law. We're looking at the oil regulation law and how it can be more transparent, especially at these times. But it will take time, no. So amending the law will take time, and that's what that's what I'm saying to the department, that if we want to amend the law, we have to plan this because hindi yan mangyayari overnight. No? We have to debate on this, we have to look at this, and it will take time. So the immediate solution is that Pantawid Pasada, which the DOF is already implementing. No? And it's good to put that in motion because the prices of oil is really going up, and it will go up in the next few weeks.
We have a saying in the Philippines, yung sa Tagalog, aanhin ang damo pag patay na ang kabayo. What good is the hay if the horse is dead? Now, in this Pantawid Pasada, I agree with you. It's a good solution, but doesn't it come too late? Because it's already end of October. By the time they get this on the ground, will probably require 15 to 20 days. By the time it comes out, tapos na ang boxing.
Part of the job of the DOE is to forecast, no? To forecast supply, to forecast demand, to forecast pricing, to forecast global trends. we all know that we import 99% of our oil. Given na yan, Sito, and that's not going to change in the next few years. No? So, in other words, our country is very susceptible to changes in global supply and demand as well as global prices. So, in other words, the job now of the DOE is to forecast and come up with solutions ahead of time. And that's why, to be frank about it, the solutions that were sent to us should have been put in motion 5, 6, 7 years ago, because we all know that we're susceptible to price shocks. And in fact, this is not the first time. If you remember when Saudi Aramco's refinery was bombed by some terrorists, supply went down. And again, no, prices went up as high as $80 per barrel. And we all scrambled again. No? And that's why what's important right now is to put something, a mechanism in place that we can call on as quick as possible and forecast ahead so that we can budget. Because even though we have that mechanism, kung wala naman tayong pera, then nothing's gonna happen. And you're right, no? The administrative portion, the rolling out portion, also takes time. No? Even though we implement it today, the drivers will not feel it probably 1 or 2 weeks after.
Well, I must point out, Senator, the last time we did that, the drivers didn't get the Pantawid Pasada until a month after, if not longer. In fact, others were even complaining that they were excluded, but that's a different topic. You
Yes.
mentioned the work of the DOE is forecasting. I think we both agree, and many people agree, that these problems that we are facing now have been with us in the last 20, 30 years. So it is not new. And yet
Yes.
nothing is being done about it. Why is that?
Okay. Sito, we have to approach this both short term and long term. No, short term is, in my observation, no, and I don't have a crystal ball to predict, but relatively, no, you can forecast aberrations in the oil and gas sector, and because we import 99% of our oil, more or less, no, there are fluctuations at least once a year. No, and in my 6 years covering the energy sector, I've seen fluctuations twice, actually 3 times. You know? So that's more or less once in 2 years. But to be conservative about it, let's forecast once a year. So meaning we have to keep at least 1.5 billion to 2 billion pesos on standby for those fluctuations so that we can draw money and execute cushioning mechanisms so that our drivers will not feel the pinch. That's in the short term. The long term is we have to reduce importation. And that's why in the next few weeks, we'll be approving already our first law on electric vehicles and charging stations. And this law will encourage proponents of electric vehicles and proponents of charging stations to come in the country and roll out our the necessary infrastructure to adopt electric vehicles. And this is a mechanism or a policy that will lower down the importation of oil. But of course, it will take time, Sito. It will not happen overnight, but a lot of countries are now rolling out their electric vehicles policy precisely to lower down the consumption of oil.
Yeah, that is the case. In fact, napapakamot na nga ako ng ulo because every time I go on the internet, all I see from other countries is in electric vehicles, electric buses, electric motorcycles, etc. And in the Philippines, when Toyota first introduced its hybrid electric hydrogen car, what the government did was slapped it with a 1 million tax
Oo nga.
for importation. And then I have been a proponent for solar, for yung backyard solar
Yeah.
adaptation para sa mga Pilipino. But all my friends said, Sito, we appreciate you championing backyard solar. Pero parang ang mahal-mahal, pag bin-breakdown mo, yung taxes nandoon pa rin. How do you resolve that issue, Senator?
Actually, with yung advocacy mo on solar rooftops, because of the RE law, we've removed a lot of the taxes. For example, importation, we've removed that. We've also removed taxes for local manufacturers. The biggest problem of solar rooftops, just to digress a bit, is red tape and also the lack of knowledge from from the local government units. For example, in my case, no, where I'm putting a solar rooftop in our house, and I discovered there's so many things there that local government units need to approve, and most of the local government units don't know how to approve it, no, because it's quite new, relatively new, no.
True.
So one of the things that we're doing is to simplify, meaning when you buy a solar rooftop, the installer can install it as quick as possible, connect it to the grid as quick as possible, and you can buy and sell as quick as possible. Probably less than 14 days, no? If we can do it as quick as that. So the problem here is actually more of the process rather than the taxes. But you're right. These are the things that we should promote so that we can reduce dependence on grid electricity.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, none of all of these bright ideas of Filipinos, and there are brilliant Filipinos who can put up all of this, but there is no ewan ko, pasensya na, Senator, no? Maybe I'm generalizing, maybe I'm being presumptuous, but I have not heard of a real group in government that is solely dedicated to the energy switch.
Yeah. The energy transition. Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, Cito, we funded, I managed to insert about 20 million pesos for this year's budget to jumpstart our energy transition. The whole world is moving to that. Okay, these are the trends, no, globally. Number one, the whole world is moving into energy transition. Number two, the whole world is electrifying everything from cars to electricity to other things, no? Meaning they're going out of oil. And then number three, renewables are coming in fast because prices are dropping. So these are the three big trends globally, and we need to follow those trends because kung hindi, maiiwanan tayo. And pag maiiwanan tayo, the cost will go up because, for example, no one's already lending to coal. So meaning the cost of building a coal-fired power plant is expensive, and that will be passed on to our consumers. So in short, no, in a nutshell, we need to transition, and we need to fund that transition. And you need reform-minded people to appreciate that transition, or else hindi nila ma-appreciate yan. If the legislature can fund all of these transitions, we have done that. But at the end of the day, it's the department that will push for the study and the jump-starting of that transition.
You know, abroad, especially in Europe, the political parties that are making a comeback and winning the elections are the parties they call green parties. The parties who are pro-environment, pro-transition to energy, etc. And one of the big picture programs is that countries like the Philippines should adopt a minimum travel, minimum carbon footprint program na kung saan, like in here in you are in Metro Manila, I presume. I am in Lipa, Batangas, but most Filipinos in Metro Manila still get their vegetable from Bontoc province, etc. in Baguio. Okay, so there is travel, etc. And the idea is dapat ang food chain ninyo with not more than 5-10 kilometers, yung inyong mga power supplies dapat solar, etc. Do we have a group or a party or leadership or government program towards that where zone planning, zonal planning, etc. considers all of this? Kasi I think that like even universities, everything is in Metro Manila. Spreading it out, Senator.
Well, Sito, the pandemic will change many of our activities. No, it will change our lifestyle actually. No, and for example, you mentioned earlier buying of food or going to work or even driving to work. All of this will change. Like for example, simple things like this type of Zoom or teleconference. Before,
Yeah.
it was until coffee. But right now, even in our office, we're thinking of doing this even post-pandemic, no, because it's more convenient. It's you consume less oil, traffic. You don't waste time in traffic, so it's more efficient. So in other words, the pandemic will change a lot of things. But then again, ang problema kasi, to be honest about it, government has this dinosaur mentality. And
Exactly.
they like to do things over and over again. And we don't have that reformist mentality, to be honest about it. And even if you look at in our energy mix, in our Philippine energy plan, it's business as usual, which is not what we need. No, what we need is to reform so that we adopt all the new technologies and to make our lives more efficient.
Why is it that way? Is it driven by vested interest group? Is this because the industries concerned control the DOE? I'm not trying to create
Hindi
a
naman.
conspiracy theory dito, Senator, no? Pero parang ang tagal na natin problema ito, and taon-taon pagdating ng November, December, ang taas ng krudo. Pagdating naman ng summer,
Yeah.
ang taas ng kuryente.
Wala kasi business as usual mentality tayo eh. Pag tumaas ang crudo, we react. No? Pag brownout, we react. But we don't forecast eh, and we don't reform. No? And reforming takes a lot of political will, and
Yeah.
that's what's missing. To be frank about it. And
But
to
you
answer
can
your question, yeah,
you can manipulate all of that when the budget hearings, like you are
yes,
now, kasi pinagbibintangan ka pa nga nung iba dyan na you are politicking when you investigated the DOE regarding the Malampaya, which I want to talk about after the break, no? But bakit ganun? Bakit hindi natin mabago? Why can't we change the business as usual mentality?
Cito, it's this answer is simple. No? It's leadership. And if the leader of the department or the leader of the organization is not reform-minded or not does not accept change, and the mentality is just doing same things over and over again, yan talaga makikita natin. No? When it's a reactive culture, and I've seen that in many times. We inserted many things in the budget. We've enacted many laws to react to new trends. But if the leader itself is not appreciative of reforms and of changes, then wala, paikot-ikot lang tayo.
Okay, let's go for a quick break, Senator Gatchalian. When we return, I just want to ask one question on that matter, and then I want to transition to the Malampaya controversy. We'll be right back here on Agenda.
All right, thank you.
Okay, welcome back to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, and with us is Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. Okay, Senator, I was just going to ask you regarding that issue of leadership. You said if this leader is not reformist or traditional, nothing will happen. Now, setting aside whoever is head or secretary of the DOE, is this problem because most of the people appointed as secretary in the past or even in present are not really energy expert. Kumbaga, they're mostly political appointees from the secretary down. They're so hindi nila talaga expertise or gamay yung problema. Oh, you're on mute.
Cito, let me just qualify. I'm not
Okay.
pinpointing on a specific department. No, I'm
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
When I made that statement, it's not towards a specific person or this specific
Yes.
department. It's a general comment, no, from based on my experience. But going to your question, alam mo, Cito, yes, experience and track record, especially in a very technical industry, plays a very important aspect. No, energy is not an ordinary sector. It's not a general knowledge sector. You need some level of experience to get things done. No? But I've encountered the past. I mean, I've talked to and consulted with our past energy secretaries, and a lot of them didn't have energy experience from the start, but they managed to transform themselves and learn the sector very quickly. No? A case in point here will be Attorney Lotilla or Secretary Lotilla and Secretary Vince Perez. No? Secretary Vince Perez was a well-known investment banker, no? And I have high regards with his work. And he managed to transform himself into an energy expert in a short time span. And I consult with him on many things, especially RE. Attorney Lutilla is the same thing. He came from the academe, but he managed to learn the energy sector and implemented a lot of reforms, especially some of the circulars that we are using right now in the oil and gas sector. My point there is you need to have that drive and passion to learn. And you can. No? It's a difficult sector, admittedly, but you can. And once you're in there, once you've learned the intricacies, you need that passion to push for reform so that the sector will transform to the better.
Okay, now going to you ayaw mong mamersonal. You don't want to target people or be criticize people in particular. But given our situation, we have raging fuel prices. We have PUB drivers trying to survive, and we have a cabinet secretary for energy who is heard more because of politics and because of his involvement in the Malampaya sale. Now, I was just reading my notes earlier, and I did not know that Dennis Uy of the Udena Group, his company, actually bought the Starlight Group of shipping group of Secretary Cusi. And now they're linked together. So parang kahit na ayaw mong mag-isip na maging malisyoso, parang
Correct.
it's inappropriate.
Correct.
In the United States, he would already be under investigation. How is it possible that you got involved in this transaction and you have another?
Correct. Actually, Sito, and that's the peril of joining the political foray, no? And again, I make this statement as a general statement. When you are a secretary and at the same time heading a political party, during the time of election, the political side will be highlighted a lot, no? And that's the reality of life, and you have to be careful that the political pronouncement will not overshadow the policy pronouncements. But in this scenario, in this environment, you can't help avoid, but all focus will be on the political side, and you just have to bear the brunt of that negative public perception of leaning towards more in politics.
Yeah, but should we
Yeah.
treat it as merely, public perception or, for my part, media perception? Because, I mean,
Yeah.
he is the cabinet, he is the Secretary of Energy. We have issues in the Department of Energy. Should he continue as Secretary of Energy or simply let someone else handle that while he can devote his time to the politics of the party?
Sito, again, no, I will answer this indirectly, but
Okay.
my philosophy is let the evidence and the facts speak for itself. No, we have issues at hand, and the facts and the evidence will reveal those issues, and those issues, the gravity of those issues will be judged by us, no, the consumers and the constituency. So let those issues come out, and I will continue to hear on those issues because, in my opinion, those issues are very important issues that we need to resolve. And for me, that's the most important. Whatever political and whatever political activities that the secretary has, that's his prerogative. But my concern are the issues, most especially the controversies that surround those issues, because
Okay.
this is
Well,
the energy sector that we
here's
need confidence.
yeah, here's the problem, Senator. Okay, you basically you're overseeing all of this at the Senate, the energy-related issues. Now, during the budget hearing, you questioned the transaction of Udena Group and the Department of Energy concerning the Chevron and the Shell shares. And because you question, biglang tinitira ka na ngayon sa dyaryo. You are now
Mm.
being criticized by certain people in the newspapers as politicking. You're doing your job. Now, the question is he doing his job?
Well, Sito, ganyan talaga, no? I've learned to absorb this type of commentaries, no? And it's part of the trade, no? Admittedly, a lot of the commentaries are one-sided, but it's part of the trade. And I admit that I signed up for this job. But
Yeah.
it will not deter me from continuously looking for the truth and continuously looking for resolutions to this controversy. So
Bigla
the
mo na,
basic problem, the
yeah,
basic problem here is hindi sinunod ng DOE yung sarili nilang circular at yung batas. That's the basic issue here. There's no
okay.
politicking. The facts will speak for itself.
For the benefit of our viewers, can you please educate us on what went down? Because ang
Okay.
alam lang namin, binenta na yung malampaya kasi nalulugi na, mahina na raw yung dinideliver na gas. That's what we ordinary Filipinos learn. And then suddenly there are all of this. Could you tell us what the situation is?
This is a very simple issue, no? And I'll break it down in very simple terms. Uh, the the oil and gas contracts cannot be sold without government approval. That's in the law. And the law is PD 87, Presidential Decree 87. To operate this law, to operationalize this law, you have the DC 2007, which was promulgated by Secretary Lutilla. So meron kang batas, which is PD 87. To operationalize it, you have DC 2007. And in these two documents, very simple lang, sabi, walang bentahan na pwedeng mangyari kung walang approval ng gobyerno. So that's very clear. So what happened here is government twisted the law, PD 87 and DC 2007, to approve the contract of Udena buying Chevron. So this is where the problem comes in, because in the law, in DC 2007, it's very clear. The steps are very clear. You don't need to be a lawyer to follow it. Just follow the steps. They didn't follow the steps. So sinabi nila, aprobado ito, but when we looked at the documents, we saw that there are a lot of inconsistencies. And I have to point out, Cito, all of those documents came from the DOE. Wala kaming star witness. Wala akong star document. It came from them. We just made sense and analyzed piece by piece how they came out with their evaluation and therefore their approval. And we saw a lot of inconsistencies. All of that is reflected in the records and in the hearings.
Okay, now, but what about the allegation? You are just trying to dig dirt so that you can gain a lot of media mileage, just like Dick Gordon did. Saan ba nagsimula? how did this issue of the Udena Chevron Shell thing start?
Tama ka. Ito, this was triggered by a resolution filed by Senator Soto, Senator Lacson, and me in 2019. No? Because there were news that Udena is buying the Chevron portion in Malapaya, and we filed a resolution to look at this transaction. So that was triggered 2 years ago. No? And since since the review is an ongoing review, we conducted ongoing hearings, and this all came out. No, that's why we didn't have any star witness that came out and said, "Oh, may ganito." No, we just reviewed the transaction. If the transaction if the transaction is consistent, then well and good. No, then the conclusion here is they followed government rules. But what happened is when after reviewing, and again, no, everything is on record. I'm not inventing now. No, everything is on record. It came out that the evaluation is inconsistent. So how can you approve a transaction where the evaluation is inconsistent and defective? No, and that's where the controversy comes in.
Okay, now, I don't know if yung sinasabi mong evaluation and inconsistency is too technical. Ewan ko kung technical. Kasi ang lumalabas sa dyaryo, ang issue ay papanong mabibili o bakit binenta kay Udena, kay Dennis Uy, yung Chevron Shell shares when then the Udena Group or Dennis Uy allegedly, reportedly in the papers, is cash challenge. Kumbaga, parang nabasa ko pa, inutang lang yung pambabayad dun sa shares na yon. Paki-educate na kami, Senator.
Yeah. So, Cito, the first is, hindi nila sinunod yung sarili nilang proseso. The second is, the evaluation of the buyer. At dito na lumalabas nga that Udena is highly leveraged, meaning maraming utang. And how can they buy and operate this asset, no, Malampaya, if they are in very precarious financial state? We have to remember, no, to put this in context, Cito, Malampaya powers 4 million homes out of the 22 million homes, almost 20% of the entire households in the Philippines. It supplies 30% of the Luzon grid. So, ibig sabihin, 1 in every 3 homes in Luzon is powered by Malampaya. So, in other words, if Malampaya fails, magkakaroon tayo, 1/3 of our economy in Luzon will disappear because walang kuryente. No? So, we have to make sure that whoever operates that has the technical, financial, and the legal qualifications. That's all prescribed in the law. Kaya sinabi ng batas, kailangan i-aproban ng gobyerno yan para masigurado ng gobyerno that whoever steps in is qualified. Or else wala nang pakialam ng gobyerno whoever steps in.
Okay, let's go for a quick break. When we come back, there are 2 qualifications that's bothering me. The technical qualification of the Udena Group and the financial qualification of the Udena Group. If you could address that. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program agenda. We're down to our last 6 minutes, so we are going to have to get quick answers from Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. Senator, mabilisan na lang. Okay, I'm worried. Does the Odena Group have a history in technical expertise regarding running a place like Malampaya? Because Shell does, Chevron does, but Odena is essentially a capitalist organization, if I can call it that.
In fairness to Odena, Cito, they have experience in retail, gas stations and retail.
Yeah.
They don't have experience in oil and gas explorations. These are worlds apart, even though they have the same product, but activities are worlds apart. One is a gas station, one is a oil and gas platform. And in our hearing, it came out that they don't have any experience, and they will just get experience from contractors. What they're saying is, yes, we don't have experience, but we can contract all of those services. So my point of the matter there is, these are future pa, iko-contract pa namin to eh. So that becomes a risk. That becomes a risk on our part.
Exactly. Is there a security clause in all of that that is bulletproof, tamper-proof, that those contractors will not be foreign contractors? Kasi that issue was raised. What if they get Chinese contractors or whatever and puts our energy security at risk?
Cito, the geopolitics is another question pa yan, ha? That's a whole new conversation, actually. To be honest about it, if you look at the structure of Odena.
Sabi mo kasi 20% of the power grid is supplied by Malampaya. Kung kawa ka ng Chinese group yan at diniktahan sila ng mainland China, sara nyo yung gripo, patay na.
That's a whole new dimension, Cito, na dapat rin mapag-usapan. You're right, no? We didn't even venture into the national security risk aspect, because of Odena's profile. But then again, your mga question mo, we asked that in the hearing. All of those questions were asked. And it came out nga that aside from being financially highly leveraged or highly indebted, it's also the technical experience that is lacking with Odena. And that's what we are questioning, because this is no ordinary. We have to understand, hindi to ordinary asset that you can buy and operate. This is a very technical asset.
Last question ko na lang, Senator, kasi talaga kailangan dito 2 oras na interview. Pero you said cash challenge ang Odena, and a lot of people have said that in media. Now the question is, if he's borrowing money to bankroll the purchase of all of those, or borrowed money, what were the banks that lent him money? Did he borrow from foreign banks or did he borrow from local banks?
Based on our hearing, they borrowed from foreign banks, and this was disclosed by PNOC. Okay. And part of it, this is the catch, part of it came from the internally generated funds. Because Malampaya is generating money, so he used part of that money to pay for Malampaya.
Sandali. Parang binibili ko yung bahay mo, pinaupahan ko yung bahay mo para bayaran niyo, ibabayad ko sa'yo?
Correct. That came out in the hearing also. No? It's called entitlements. And that's why my conclusion there, from a business standpoint, government should have bought it because number one, it's utang. Government can obviously go and borrow. And number two, portion of the payment came from the proceeds itself. So in other words, walang linabas yung proponent. So gobyerno na sana bumili nun so that we control and take all the proceeds.
Okay, and among those banks who gave the loans, are they established foreign banks or are they mainland China banks?
In fairness, they're foreign banks, meaning Western banks. If I'm not mistaken, one of them is ANZ, which is a New Zealand bank. So they're foreign established banks. These banks are reputable banks. And but the point there is, as long as you have revenue coming in, those banks will lend you.
If
So
the bank if the bank forecloses for whatever reason, may control pa ba tayo to if the
that's
bank decides to sell it to whoever?
actually that's my point also, because what we don't want is the banks owning this. We don't want banks owning our Malampaya asset. We want operators owning the Malampaya asset, because banks are not operators. And that's another risk. If banks will own it, eventually, for whatever reason, na foreclose yan, and banks own it, how can they run the rig? First of all, they're not here in the Philippines. Second, they don't have technical capability. Then, the risk is on us again as Filipino
Okay.
consumers.
Thank you very much, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, and I personally will campaign for your re-election
Thank you,
because
thank
we
you.
need people like you in the Senate. You have done a good job, and we know you will continue to do a good job. Thank you very much.
Maraming salamat, Cito. Thank you.
Okay, ang po si Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, and I leave you with the commanded blessing of the Lord. May the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his face toward you and give you peace. Please take care of yourselves. God bless you. Thank you for watching Agenda. Please keep it here on One News PH.